Nuclear science is dedicated to development, to achieving freedom from want, and providing the essentials of an honorable life for our masses. I repeat that we have no intention of embarking on any nuclear weapons program. We want, as someone has said, to make the deserts bloom and not to make the world a desert.
In 1974, deep beneath the arid sands of Pokhran in Rajasthan, India detonated a nuclear device. It wasn't just an explosion. It was a declaration. Not of war, but of sovereignty, of strength, of self-respect. Yet behind that thunderous blast lies a story, buried, untold. A story of secret scientists, spy satellites, diplomatic games, and a prime minister's quiet defiance. This is the untold story of India's nuclear test that changed everything. Let's go back to where it all began. Welcome to the Real India Files, where we discover the untold stories of India. Chapter 1. The Seeds of Ambition, a nation's quest for security. To understand Pokhran 1, we need to go back, way back, to the dawn of independent India. When India gained independence in 1947, it was a nation grappling with immense poverty, internal divisions, and the legacy of colonialism. Yet even amidst these challenges, its first prime minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, was a visionary. He championed a policy of non-alignment, refusing to pick sides in the burgeoning Cold War. But even non-alignment couldn't insulate India from the harsh realities of global power dynamics. The 1950s and early 60s saw the world in a nuclear arms race frenzy. The US, the Soviet Union, the UK, France, and then, in 1964, China, all joined the exclusive nuclear club. This last one, China, just across India's Himalayan border, was a game changer, especially after the humiliating Sino-Indian War of 1962, where India suffered a decisive defeat. This defeat wasn't just a military setback, it was a psychological blow, exposing India's vulnerabilities. Nehru, a proponent of peaceful uses of atomic energy, had always maintained India would never develop nuclear weapons. But the geopolitical winds were shifting. The idea of a peaceful nuclear explosion, a PNE, began to quietly gain traction within a small, elite group of Indian scientists and policymakers. A PNE, they argued, could be used for mining, excavation, or even creating canals. But everyone knew, and the world suspected, that a PNE was a hair's breadth away from a weapon. Chapter 2. The Architects of Destiny. A secret within a secret. Behind this nascent ambition were some of India's brightest minds. Homi J. Bhabha, often called the father of the Indian nuclear program, was a brilliant physicist with a direct line to Nehru. He laid the foundational groundwork, establishing institutions like the Bhabha Atomic Research Center, BARC-E. After Bhabha's untimely death in 1966, another formidable figure stepped in, Vikram Sarabhai. Sarabhai, a space pioneer, continued Bhabha's legacy, though with a perhaps more cautious approach to weaponization. But the true driving force behind the bomb, the man who would eventually execute the project, was Raja Ramana. Ramana, a brilliant nuclear physicist, was a key figure at BARC. He, along with his dedicated team, worked in extreme secrecy, often under euphemistic project names, to develop the necessary technologies. The scientific community within India was incredibly insular, a necessity for a program so sensitive. They knew they were working on something monumental, something that could redefine India's destiny, but they couldn't even speak of it openly amongst themselves. The political leadership also played a crucial role. After Nehru came Lal Bahadur Shastri, who, though his tenure was brief, continued the focus on self-reliance. But it was under Indira Gandhi's leadership during the turbulent 1960s that the final decision to greenlight the test was made. Chapter 3. The Crucible of Crisis, Forging Resolve. The 1970s hammered home India's geopolitical realities. The 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War was a triumph, a decisive victory that redrew the map of South Asia. Yet it also brought India perilously close to direct confrontation with a nuclear superpower. Remember the USS Enterprise? The American aircraft carrier, dispatched by President Nixon and Henry Kissinger, sailed into the Bay of Bengal, a blunt, unambiguous message of American might, and a stark reminder of India's relative vulnerability. It was in this crucible of intense pressure that Indira Gandhi, a leader of steel and unwavering resolve, made the final pivotal decision. She saw the nuclear capability not as a luxury, but as a necessity. It was about deterrence, about protecting India's hard-won sovereignty, about ensuring that no other power could dictate its terms. The constant shadow of Pakistan, emboldened by external support, and the existing nuclear might of China, made the choice undeniable. The Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, which India refused to sign, was seen as a tool of global power imbalance, a means to keep the haves privileged and the have-nots perpetually disarmed. India chose a different path, one of defiant self-assertion. Chapter 4. Operation Smiling Buddha, the unseen preparations. Now comes the moment of transformation. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi made the boldest decision of her political career. Despite immense pressure from the US and Soviet Union, she authorized a nuclear test, codename Smiling Buddha. The planning for the test was a masterpiece of clandestine operations. The location, Pokhran, a remote desert region in Rajasthan, known for its sparse population and geological stability. The preparations began years in advance, under the guise of civilian construction projects. Roads were built, underground shafts dug, all while maintaining absolute secrecy. The scientists and engineers involved were handpicked and highly compartmentalized. No one person knew the entire scope of the project. Messages were relayed through coded language, often disguised as mundane communications. The security was so tight that even top military officials were kept in the dark until the very last moment. The equipment, much of it developed indigenously, was transported under the cloak of night, disguised as regular cargo. One of the most remarkable aspects of this operation was the ingenuity of the Indian scientists. They faced immense challenges, from procuring specialized materials to perfecting detonation mechanisms, all without external assistance. It was a true testament to Jugaad, the Indian spirit of innovative improvisation. They developed the bomb using plutonium, which was produced in India's own research reactors, ensuring complete self-reliance and avoiding any dependence on external suppliers that could compromise the operation. This was not just a scientific endeavor, it was a national mission, driven by a deep sense of patriotism and the conviction that India deserved its place at the table. On May 18, 1904, the earth shook. The test was successful, but it wasn't a weaponized bomb. It was a peaceful nuclear explosion, India declared. The world? Furious. India had entered the elite nuclear club. Chapter 5. The Day the Earth Moved, May 18, 1904. The chosen date was May 18, 1904, Buddha Purnima, the auspicious full moon day commemorating the birth of Gautama Buddha. Hence the poetic, almost ironic code name, Smiling Buddha. Early that morning, at precisely 8:05 a.m., deep within the Thar Desert, the earth trembled. A massive, controlled explosion rocked the desolate landscape. A plume of dust and sand shot hundreds of feet into the air, creating a temporary, almost mythical mushroom cloud. It wasn't as large as the strategic bombs of the superpowers, but it was enough. Enough to announce to the world that India had arrived. The test was successful, but it wasn't a weaponized bomb. It was a peaceful nuclear explosion, India declared. Indira Gandhi was informed almost immediately. Her understated reaction, "The Buddha has smiled," became an iconic phrase, perfectly capturing the blend of scientific achievement and strategic subtlety. The news was disseminated to the world with a carefully worded statement from the Department of Atomic Energy. The Atomic Energy Commission Government of India announced today that it successfully carried out a peaceful nuclear explosion experiment using an indigenous nuclear device. The world was stunned. While India insisted it was a peaceful nuclear explosion, the international community saw it for what it was: a nuclear test, plain and simple. The reverberations were immediate and profound. The world, furious. India had entered the elite nuclear club. Chapter 6: The Global Fallout, Backlash and Repercussions. The aftermath was swift. The international reaction was a mixed bag, but predominantly one of shock, condemnation, and concern. The United States and Canada, who had provided significant assistance to India's peaceful nuclear program, felt betrayed. Canada, in particular, reacted strongly, cutting off all nuclear cooperation, stating that the technology they provided was for peaceful energy generation, not for bombs. This led to significant diplomatic friction. Pakistan, understandably, was furious and vowed to develop its own nuclear weapons, accelerating its clandestine program with renewed urgency. China, while critical, perhaps understood India's motivations better than the Western powers, given their own nuclear journey. The global community feared a new wave of nuclear proliferation. Concerns were raised about regional instability and the potential for a South Asian arms race. Sanctions were imposed, and India faced international isolation in certain sectors. The peaceful claim was largely dismissed, and the world saw India as having crossed a dangerous threshold. However, within India, the reaction was overwhelmingly positive. It was seen as a moment of national triumph, a defiance of Western hegemony, and a statement of India's growing confidence on the world stage. For the first time, India felt heard. No longer seen as a soft, impoverished post-colonial state, but as a nation of intellect, grit, and willpower. Smiling Buddha was a message. We may speak of peace, but we are not weak. Yet the test also led to the creation of a global cartel, the Nuclear Suppliers Group, NSG, meant to prevent others from following India's footsteps. But it was too late. The genie was out of the bottle. Chapter 7: Science, Sacrifice, and Silence. Behind the headlines, there were heroes. People like Dr. Raja Ramana, who kept the program alive despite threats and lack of resources. Engineers, who worked day and night under heat and secrecy. Military officers who guarded the desert site with their lives. No awards, no recognition, no public parades. Because this wasn't just a mission. It was a silent war for sovereignty. And they won. Chapter 8: The Legacy That Still Shapes India. The 1904 test did more than shake the earth. It shook the world order. It pushed Pakistan to launch its own nuclear program. It challenged the global double standards. And it laid the foundation for India's 1998 Pokhran II tests, where India officially became a nuclear weapons state.
At 15:45 hours, India conducted 3 underground nuclear tests in the Pokhran range. These tests conducted today were with a fission device, a low-yield device, and a thermonuclear device. The measured yields are in line with expected values. Measurements have also confirmed that there was no release of radioactivity into the atmosphere.
Today, India holds a no-first-use policy, power balanced with restraint. Its nuclear capability is not just about war, but about peace through strength. The explosion may have lasted seconds, but its echo still reverberates through every corridor of power, from Delhi to Washington to Beijing. In the silence of the Pokhran Desert, a new India was born, not just through the force of an explosion, but through the quiet courage of its scientists, the resolve of its leaders, and the unbreakable spirit of its people. We often celebrate what is seen, but sometimes, the stories that remain hidden shape us the most. This was one such story, the untold story of the test that changed everything. If this story moved you, like, comment and share it with someone who still thinks India just discovered tech recently. And as always, stay curious, stay proud, and keep exploring the real India files. Thank you for watching.